The upcoming talks in Islamabad, it is expected that Iran and the US will meet again in Islamabad because what we saw over the weekend was that the talks fell apart and hopes are pinned on these upcoming round of talks. So to understand that better, I am joined by another guest, and we'll also talk about why this deal is critical for Pakistan as a mediator, which is leading these efforts. We are joined by Kamran Bokhari, Senior Resident Fellow at the Middle East Policy Council. Thank you so much, Mr. Bokhari. First, what are your expectations around the upcoming talks between Iran and the US?
Well, thanks for having me. Look, there was a conversation that was held last week, and it went well, but it didn't get to the finish line. And there are lots of conversations that still need to be had. So I think that this is a sign of progress, but I don't think we should, draw any conclusions that we're close to a deal. It does look promising, but I'd like to be able to see the details before I infer or draw that conclusion that hey, we're very close to a deal. One of the things to keep in mind here is that, and this is something that the Vice President of the United States explained in his press conference and then later on in his interview with Fox News, that the Iranian leadership had to go back home and sort of have a huddle amongst themselves as to what is acceptable, what kind of terms are acceptable to them, and they have to decide because the offer was given by the United States, and it's an offer that entails extensive economic packages in exchange for giving up enrichment. So it's a complicated issue that still has to be sorted out. So I hesitate to say that this is we're near the finish line.
Right. What do you make of the Lebanon-Israel talks that were held for the first time in over 3 decades?
And that's an important part of the overall US-Iranian deal. The reason I say that is because one of the demands from the United States is that the Iranians no longer support armed militias, and Hezbollah is the premier proxy of Iran. And the since the end of the war, or the not the end of the war, but the destruction of Hezbollah's offensive war-making capabilities and the elimination of its leadership in late 2024, there's been a process to disarm Hezbollah that has not made progress. And I think that the demand on the Iranians is that, look, we understand you have a relationship with Hezbollah, and we want you to use that relationship to help us disarm as part of a broader deal. So I don't see the Lebanon talks as separate from the overall US-Iranian talks. Yes, they're a subcomponent, but a key component because it's also seen as such by the Iranians. The Iranians don't want to sort of abandon their premier proxy, and when all is said and done, they want Hezbollah to at least remain a political force in Lebanon, even after it has been forced to give up its weapons.
Right. Once again, all eyes will be on Islamabad, as and when these talks happen. How do you see Pakistan's role as a mediator, and what are the stakes for Islamabad here?
Well, I mean, Pakistan is sort of uniquely positioned because if you look at, who else besides Pakistan, there are not a whole lot of players. And the reason for that is from a strategic point of view, Iran is isolated and lonely. Turkey is its rival. Saudi Arabia has a historical, arch nemesis, and there are no other Arab states. Azerbaijan is also not on friendly terms with Iran. And amongst the neighboring states, the only one left is Pakistan. And Pakistan is also uniquely positioned because it has relationships, very close defense relationships with the Saudis. It has a close relationship, a historical relationship as an ally with the United States, although there have been ups and downs in recent decades. And then Pakistan is an ally of China. And so this unique sort of strategic positioning allows Pakistan to play that role. And at the end of the day, the Iranians don't have a whole lot of people that they can trust. Let's just say this way, that Pakistan is the one country with which Iran has the least number of problems, if you compare it to everybody else. So therefore, it's not surprising that Pakistan is playing this role. Mind you, that back in the 70s, Pakistan also mediated between the US and China during the Nixon administration, which led to the detente between the two powers. And as for stakes, there's a lot at stake. Pakistan has a huge problem on its western flank. The areas west of the Indus River are facing, insurgencies. There are two insurgencies. There's the TTP jihadist insurgency. There is the Baloch separate insurgency. Then you have problems with the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. And we've seen direct fighting and clashes in recent weeks and months between the Pakistanis and the Afghan regime. So if Iran were to somehow go, descend into chaos because of warfare, then that just creates more vulnerability on Pakistan's western border. And it not only, creates sort of that cross-border Baloch separatist dynamic, it also allows the Taliban in Afghanistan to have strategic depth in eastern Iran. And that would be a problem for Pakistan. So Pakistan has a lot at stake. And then Pakistan has this deal with the Saudis and the Saudis are being attacked by Iran. Pakistan does not want to be the one jumping into this war, because at some point, if this war continued and Saudi Arabia got hit even harder, it would call upon its ally to come defend it.
Right. Mr. Bokhari, one last question, and this is about the human cost of this war, because we are seeing reports that Burj Khalifa will, shut for 18 months because of the decline in tourism, and of course that fear that remains around the Middle East. A lot of civilians have returned to their respective countries and they are waiting for peace to prevail. In your view, how long do you think it's going to take for people to feel safe again, whether to invest or to go back and see a future in West Asia? Or is this all, is the fear overstated?
Look, I wouldn't say that the fear is overstated, because nothing like this has ever happened before. Until this war, the idea that Iran would lob missiles and drones across the Persian Gulf into these, energy-rich Gulf states, the Arab states, was a theoretical construct. Now it no longer is. It's that unthinkable has come to pass. So this is all very new, and people are trying to come to terms with it. The governments in those countries are trying to come to terms with it. They want to know whether this is going to happen again at some point in the future. So they're going to take their time, and which is another reason why this negotiation is taking so long. I mean, you look, the Strait of Hormuz situation is still in question. So there are going to be a lot of changes in the way the GCC states have operated, and that will have a direct impact on expat workers, particularly from South Asia, countries like India and Pakistan and Bangladesh, and even further far east. So I think we're looking at significant changes in the making. What they will be remains to be seen. Everything depends on how this war comes to an end, and how do the Gulf states and the broader region, how does it adjust to this sort of new normal?
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bokhari, for making time and speaking with CNBC TV 18. On that note, we'll slip into a short break. But coming up next is a story that concerns a lot of people in Bangladesh and Myanmar. A ship carrying 250 people has disappeared, has capsized, but there is no detail about the whereabouts of the people. More details when we return.